Hey guys, welcome. So you have a quiz for the first 15 minutes of this period. I just want you to get started, get right to it. Since you guys are here on time, you guys get started with that. You'll hear me repeat that to a few students as they come in as well. But you can get started. I posted the link in the chat. It's also in the Google Classroom. So start with that. You have 15 minutes to work on it. For those that just came in, we are starting a quiz right now. I'm posting that in the chat. You guys can click on the link and get started. You have 15 minutes to do it. All right, best of luck. We will come back together, obviously, at the end of the 15 minutes to start our lesson for today. For those that just came in, I saw two people. We have just started a quiz. Please click on the Google form to work on it. You now have 13 minutes to complete it.
Good morning. Oh, they're taking a quiz.
For the first 15 minutes there. Good morning.
Morning. It's afternoon already. They're taking. I love you. Oh, Janet. Okay. So she's interested in a dog.
Okay, I have noticed people have finished. It's okay. Everyone still has 10 minutes left. I'm going to share another screen. If you want to get a head start on your notes, give me 1 second to do that while everyone's still taking this quiz. Okay, for those that are still working on the quiz, you have about 8 minutes left. Everyone else, if you're done, please copy down the focus question, and then what's in yellow here, you have one slide for today. Quiz is in the chat, Jaden, or it's on the Google Classroom. Okay, everyone, we got 5 minutes left for the quiz. If you're done early, you can copy down the sharecropping slide.
I got 16 out of 20.
Not bad. You don't have to announce your scores, obviously, everyone, but that's not bad. Remember, it's just a quiz, so this is going to help us out for the future tests. So I'd say you're in pretty good shape.
The quiz is just there to make sure for paying attention in class.
Essentially, yes. That's what it's there for. And also to test if you've been getting the material, not just that if you've been paying attention. Some people have been paying attention and aren't getting the material, but I thought it was pretty straightforward, basic stuff. You studied a little bit, you should have been fine.
But I'm still mad. I got 60 out of 20. What is he? Oh, him.
All right, guys, we're going to take 2 more minutes to finish up the quiz. Okay, Nayaja, yep, I saw. I'm seeing a couple of people. All right, Nayaja should be copying down the focus question on the board into your notebook. We're going to start that in 30 seconds now. Yeah, so Sebastian, you're not the only one. I noticed a couple of kids took the quiz more than once. Obviously, it's going to be graded the first time because they're going to give you the answers if you try and take it a second time. So whatever your first grade is the grade I'm putting in Jupiter. Can you take it again? Absolutely. But there's not going to be something put into Jupiter because they give you the answers once you realize you get them wrong. So
Excuse
I can't
me?
obviously do that. Yes, Isaiah.
What if you didn't view the question, like the score?
Yes. How would there's no way I'd know that, you know? Like, you got to...
Okay, I get it.
You know, it's like anyone could say that sort of thing. Oh yeah, you know, I didn't look. I just took it again. Like, you get one chance at it.
Okay.
So whatever your I haven't looked at them, guys. Whatever your first score is your first score. But I imagine if you try to take it a second time, I'm just going to disregard it. I have to. Otherwise, there's going to be no integrity in these things.
All right.
All right. Okay. So let's get started with the lesson. If you didn't finish the quiz, you got like a minute. So finish up because we need to move on. We are going to look at a topic called sharecropping. This was the #1 job African Americans would usually take or be after they were slaves. And you're going to see how similar the job is to slavery, but we're going to go over the distinct differences of the two, obviously. Okay? So the fact of the matter is, especially right after the end of slavery, many newly freed African Americans, unfortunately, since they never went to school, many of them couldn't read or write. So the types of jobs that they could have were very limited. They also didn't have a lot of quote-unquote life experience simply because they've been slaves their whole lives. So the types of jobs that African Americans could have at this point were very basic stuff, farming, working in the service industry, you know, cleaning, things along those lines, they being some type of maid possibly or a butler. Very basic stuff, all right, because just they didn't have the education to be a lawyer or a doctor for the most part. And that's not their fault. That's just how they were brought up, how their life was as slaves of the country. So now when it's time to get a job, many African Americans, unfortunately, don't really know how to do much else besides farm. All right. So what do we come up with? Well, now we're going to have this thing called sharecropping. And it wasn't just African Americans. It was some poor white people as well, but majority, as you can see from the photo here, are African American people. So what does it kind of look like these African American sharecroppers still are? I mean, they're still working in the farm. It kind of still looks like they have the same jobs that they would as a slave, but now they should hypothetically be getting paid. But this is where the loopholes of the South come in. What if they were to be paid but not be paid with money? What if they were to be paid with crops or paid with something other than money? That's essentially what sharecropping is. So very simple. I'm a teacher right now. I'm working as a teacher. At the end of the day or end of the week, I get a paycheck for my job that I am providing, the service I'm providing. If you're a farmer in 2020, it's the same thing. You're going to grow the crops. Eventually, you get a paycheck towards the end of it. Okay? Now, this is different. Sharecropping is this
What? I can only do the quiz once?
Wait, say that again?
I can only do the quiz once?
Of course, Sebastian. How many times do you think you could take a test?
2 times?
Yeah, no, not in this grade or not in this school. Maybe if you do some other type of test, you could take it multiple times, like practice tests, but not when you take actual quizzes. You should know that. That's not much of a surprise. All right. So
I just got on the. I was on the second try.
yeah, of course. No, I mean, of course, yeah. If you do it a second time, you're probably going to do better. But I have to honor the first time you do it. Otherwise, we could just have kids take it 8, 9 times until they get 100 and are happy with their grade. So that's not exactly encouraging students to study and be prepared for a quiz. And the original grade you got was pretty good. So I know it could be frustrating because it's not 100, but I think we have to understand that taking quizzes, taking tests, you have to do it well in the first try. All right?
So, but how is a 16 out of 20 good?
Because it's an 80%. You got 80% right. It's not like you're putting, right? It's not like I'm putting a 16 into Jupiter. I'm putting a 16 out of 20, so you got an 80. So an 80 is good. At least I think it's good. Some people are.
Oh.
Now we understand. All right. So Shanika said they get paid with something other than money. Yes. All right. So what happens is, since we're getting paid with something other than money, they're going to get paid with essentially crops. So farmers' job is to build these crops, and then those crops are going to be used to be eaten or to be used in some type of capacity. All right. So sharecropping, I'm going to read the very confusing definition, but I think when you see the diagram, it should make sense. All right. So I'll show you the diagram in a second. So it's the process where someone gets a portion of farmland to farm on. So we need to start with this. Many African Americans didn't own land, didn't own farmland. So they needed to go rent an area of farmland. Do you know the types of people that owned farmland at this time? Most of them were former slave owners. So they are basically going to provide their land to the newly freed African Americans to farm on. Now, they're not going to do this for free, obviously. When they farm, they keep a small portion or a small share of the crops they own, and the rest goes to the plantation owner. So let's say you are growing, you're growing corn, okay? Let's say you need to grow 100 pounds of corn for the slave owner, and then everything, for the slave owner, for the farmer, or the landowner, the plantation owner. After you grow 100 pounds of corn, that's going to go to the plantation owner, and then you get to keep whatever else that you grow. What you'll notice is it is very tough for a person to make good money in this job. And sometimes they won't make any money in this job. So this obviously kept a lot of African Americans and poor people poor, because this was a job that a majority of them did, but it wasn't a very good job in terms of making money. So let me show you this diagram here to help you make further sense of what's going on. All right. So we're going to start at the top here, and we're going to look at the sharecropper cycle of poverty. Why, in other words, a African-American sharecropper or a white sharecropper will never make much money. All right. The goal of new free African-Americans is to make money and make a living for themselves so they can host a family. All right, so most of them became sharecroppers. It was the easiest job for them to do. So let's start. The sharecropper here on the left is provided land and seed. All right, in exchange, he promises the landowner half of the crop. So that seems pretty fair, 50-50. You keep half, I keep half. I'm providing the land for you to grow the crops. I'm also providing the seed, you know, pretty much the stuff that's going to be put into the ground to be grown. Okay? Now, sharecroppers don't have things like rakes. They don't have things like plows. They don't have certain farming equipment, okay, at hand for the most part, all right, because they were slaves. They didn't own these stuff. So now what do they got to do? They got to buy the food, the clothing, the equipment on credit from the landowner's store. On credit, which we'll learn about a lot in this class later on, means you're going to owe someone money. So you don't have the money at the time, so once you get paid money, you're going to pay them back. All right, if I gave Jason $30 on credit, I give him $30, I say, okay, just pay me back a little bit later on. That's me giving him credit for something. All right? So then the sharecropper is going to plant and harvest the crops. You gotta wait for the growing season. Once it's all said and done and all the crops are done, the sharecropper gives the landowner, we're on 4 now, gives the landowner the crop to sell. What happens is the sharecropper will get half of the earnings, but now they'll have to pay back the landowner for the seed, for the equipment, for the food, and the clothing. All right? So they're only getting half of the product, but they still have to now essentially give some money back to the landowner. Number 5, when settling up, the landowner says that the sharecropper owes more than he has earned. And this happens a lot, right? Sometimes you're not able to grow enough food, you're not able to grow enough crops, and the landowner says, you know what, you still owe me some money. And here's where understanding math is a huge issue. If you're a sharecropper and you don't know what half of something is, the landowner could lie to you, and this happened a lot, right? The landowner would say, oh yeah, you owe me $1,000, this is only worth $800, therefore you still owe me money, right? So to pay this debt, you gotta keep working for the landowner. And in turn, you're constantly falling further into debt. For those that don't know, debt is a term for when you owe someone or something money, all right? So this cycle of poverty basically says, even if the sharecropper has a great growing season, they're never gonna make a lot of money. All right?
I think that's unfair.
Of course it's unfair. Absolutely it's unfair. This is again...
They should get 50-50.
What's up?
They should get 50-50.
Here's the thing, Sebastian. More times than not, they do get 50-50. But when you're buying stuff and someone's lending you things, you have to pay those people back first before you keep money for yourself. So in essence, you're really not making much money, if any money at all. All right? So sharecroppers constantly got in debt, and they had to owe their landowners debt. I mean, in some ways, this was very similar to slavery. What I call it is economic slavery. They had freedom. They didn't have to have this job, but if you became a sharecropper, you really weren't going to make much money in this cycle. There was never a $1 million sharecropper, let's say. It wasn't just a job. Yeah, you copied the picture into your notes. That's great. You didn't have to, but this is very helpful for you to see what's going on. So now we're going to pretend, okay, for the assignment, that we are going to be lawyers for a particular sharecropper. So there's going to be an uneducated, newly freed African-American who needs your help. He has his contract written out for him, and you need to basically determine if he should accept or reject the contract. And I'll show you how this goes here. So if you go to your Google Classroom, all right, you have 2 things shared. The first thing are the questions in the Google Docs, which you don't have to do this second. The thing I want you to be looking at is this sharecropping reading here. All right, and I'm just going to read the introduction to you and then the directions. All right, so just listen. Following the Civil War, freedmen were left poor, uneducated, and intimidated. Many were pressured into contracts that intended to keep them on the land they once toiled as slaves. However, now they were known as sharecroppers, no longer slaves. With the vast majority of freedmen being illiterate, meaning unable to read or write, many were taken advantage of and signed very unfavorable contracts with their former masters. So when I became a teacher, before I took the job, I had to sign a contract. Before you take any job, you got to sign a contract to some capacity, right? You better know it's in the contract first before you sign it, because otherwise you can start doing things in your job that you may not be good at or want to do. So John Dawson, your friend, is a former slave and he needs your help. Since Mr. Dawson has never learned to read or write, he cannot understand the contract that has been offered to him to remain as a sharecropper. Examine the sharecropping contract written between Solid South, which is the name of his company that he's going to work for, his farmland, and John Dawson, and you're going to make a determination of the contract's fairness. To help in making your judgment, answer the analytical questions concerning the sharecropping contract on the appropriate page. Okay, so everyone pay attention carefully, because you're going to get a little freaked out when I show you the first thing. This is the original sharecropping contract. This is an actual contract from January 1879 for a sharecropper. All I want us to do is just quickly look at this. But a majority of what you'll be reading is on the next page. It's a little bit shorter and it's put into 8th grade language. Okay? I want you to keep something in mind. This contract here, I'm just going to read the first 2 sentences. All right. Witnesseth that said party of the first part and in consideration of 88 pounds of lint cotton to be paid to the said Solid South, as hereinafter expressed hereby leases to said Dawson for the year AD 1879. So you're an educated 8th grader. That's difficult to read. Contracts are difficult to read. And many plantation owners specifically wrote it this difficult. For what reason? Why did they write this contract this difficult?
Because some of the people couldn't read or write.
Excellent. Since many African Americans couldn't read or write, they're just going to look at it and say, I don't know what this says. Can you just tell me what it says? And
It's
now
either that.
the owner can start to maybe lie or fabricate or leave stuff out, so they get workers to work for them for a less amount of time. So we're not going to work with this one. Okay, don't work with this one. I would like for you guys to work with this contract. Okay? So again, I'm going to read it to you. Okay, and then you guys will have about 10 minutes to answer the questions as best you can. All right? This is a contract made and entered on January 18th, 1879 by Solid South, which is the name of the plantation owner, and John Dawson, your friend. By signing, John Dawson agrees to pay 88 pounds of lint cotton to the Solid South. Solid South agrees to rent out a section of land measuring 15 acres. The section of his land is from Waterford Plantation in Madison Parish, Louisiana. So John Dawson gets 15 acres of land, and he has to grow a total of 88 pounds of lint cotton. Now, I know you're not farming experts, and neither am I, by any means. You guys ever pick up cotton? You guys ever pick up a cotton ball or something? It's pretty light.
Yep.
Okay? So 88 pounds of lint cotton is a lot of cotton. All right? So I'm not saying that's fair or unfair, but this is a lot of cotton that John Dawson is responsible for growing. So he needs to pay 88 pounds of lint cotton. Once he pays 88 pounds of lint cotton to the plantation owner, the rest he can keep for himself. So if he grows 140 pounds of lint cotton, 88 goes to the plantation owner, 58 or whatever it is, 68 goes to John Dawson. All right, he gets to keep that. Then with that lint cotton, John Dawson could sell it to whoever. Dawson is to cultivate and prepare the land in a proper manner and under the supervision of Solid South. All ditches, turn rows, bridges, fences, etc. in the land are to be kept in good condition by said Dawson. If Dawson does not keep these things in good condition, he will have to pay for them. So if something breaks, it's his responsibility. All cotton raised on Solid South's land will belong exclusively to Solid South until John Dawson can pay all of his debt. So the rakes, the machines, they are all the Solid South until he pays back his debt. Solid South agrees to lease or rent John Dawson 2 mules and plows for $315. So if he wants to use a plow or use one of the animals, the mule, it's going to cost him $315. John Dawson will have 1 year to pay his rent. If Solid South supplies John Dawson with more money and or supplies, then Dawson must pay for the supplies with his first paycheck. John Dawson will also have a year to pay for all the materials he leased. After John Dawson has paid for the things he leased, so now this is what we're talking about, right? Oh, sorry. If you go back to the PowerPoint, this is step 2, where he has to pay back the materials that he's renting. He must clean all the cotton that has been grown in the land. To clean the cotton, Dawson will also be used to charge $4 to use Solid South's cotton gin in order to clean the cotton. That's like me saying as a teacher right now, anytime you come onto my Google Meet for you guys to learn my lesson, you need to pay me $5. The only way you're going to get cotton is through the cotton gin, and you need to use the cotton gin. So every time that he gets cotton, he has to pay money to use the machine that cleans the cotton. It's kind of messed up. To make sure that rent and supply bills are paid, Solid South own all of the cotton grown on this land until he reaches 88 pounds. All right, so what you'll be doing is using that reading, the easy reading, not the hard reading, okay? You're going to answer these questions. I suspect you won't finish early. All right, so you probably will have to go into your little homework assignment, but many of you can get done if you work hard. I will also say this, the analysis, the first 5 questions are from the text. Go to the text, take the quotes, get the answers, just like you would in ELA. The analysis questions were some of the things that we talked about, but my favorite one is number 7. If you were John Dawson's friend, would you accept this contract? Now, please keep in mind, if you don't accept it, because we're being not biased, it is a little unfair, you could tell. What is maybe something you can maybe suggest to John Dawson for a job? Because, guys, this may be the only job he can do. All right, so it's a very difficult question that I'm asking, so try your best with that. So you guys have 10 minutes. I'll mute myself, take attendance. If you have any questions, please let me know, and see if we can get this done in time.
Got it.
At the end of the cropping season, you have to pay back the person.
Correct.
What?